How do you feel in this moment, honestly, how do you feel as a black man in this moment with what's happening now?
Um, it's just I was just on a panel. I was talking about this, like the idea that uh, I had believed that we were better, not like uh, perfect or uh, that discrimination didn't exist, but had believed generally in like the stock market, it goes up, it goes down, but if you look over a long period of time, it goes up. The general track is up. That was part of the history of race and struggle in the country. That there's some horrible regressions and horrible things, but generally the track was towards an expansion of liberties and freedoms.
How do you feel in so then what is the big push to now? Because everything, I mean, honestly, everything now is let's remove blackness altogether from history, from the present, from the future. If you look at the folks who are in charge, mainly incompetent white men who are in charge of the country right now. And that's just, I'm just being honest. It's not racist. It's an honest, I believe, objective um, viewpoint of what's happening, examination of what's happening.
But part of it is not about efficacy. They don't. It may not. Not all of it will work. They don't care.
Then what is it
I
then?
mean, they're putting stakes in the ground. They're putting stakes in the ground
For what?
to signify that this is what we believe, and we will not. Not only now, we will not back away from it. We will not code it. We won't code it. Maybe a court will knock this down or that down, but we have put the stake in the ground with the president of the United States name and signature on it that this is what we believe.
So then what is
Good morning and welcome to another edition of Let It Be Known. I am your host, Stacey Brown, and for 198 years, the Black press of America has stood strong, giving voice to the voiceless and power to the powerless. Our reporting is rooted in justice, activism, and truth. From slavery to civil rights to today's battle for diversity, equity, and inclusion, the Black press has never wavered. George Floyd's story was the story of so many Black Americans. He had dreams. He fought to overcome, and he was failed by a system built to suppress him. His death under a police officer's knee was not new. It was centuries old. A straight line connects his ancestor, born into slavery in 1820, to his last breath in 2020. And in 2025, that line runs through boardrooms. For instance, Target's silence toward the Black press is not just disrespect, it's economic injustice. So we will not support those who erase us. This isn't about advertising. It isn't about action. Well, it is about action. It's actually about visibility. It's about dignity. The Black press will not be ignored, not in this moment, not ever. We don't fold, we fight, and we will always plead the cause of our people. And today, we will talk to some special guests about George Floyd. Good morning, Miel.
Peace and love, everybody, and Stacy, and welcome to Black Press USA. Today is a heavy day, but guess what? We're going to still keep it light because it's Friday and it's Memorial Day weekend. And starting off the show, Charles Blow, I think he said some really important messaging, as well as that's my fellow Gramblinite. We actually worked at the Gramblinite newspaper together. And so as we're, feeling maybe a little sad this weekend. Black men are really doing a lot in this country, and it's something to be proud of. And on every downside, there's an upside.
That's a good point. And you want to keep it a little light, like you said. So it is Happy Swag Hoodie Day. RNG is rocking out Alabama A&M. So Check that out, folks, and check him out. It's Friday, so the Swag Sports on YouTube. Check him out this evening and learn some more stuff about our HBCU sports. Neil, according to, so we're going to start off this morning with the Prison Policy Initiative and some stats as we go into the 5th anniversary of the death of George Floyd. Despite fewer people, according to the Prison Policy Initiative, despite fewer people experiencing police contact, racial disparities in arrest, police misconduct, and police use of force has continued to rise. And, just because the sheer number of police interactions was lower than it had been in decades, well, it does not mean the problems with our nation's system of policing has been solved. Far, far from it. Just real briefly, a couple of stats: almost 30 million people initiated contact with police in the year 2022. But, and this is the latest stats available, by the way, overall stats. However, only half of those people ever reported possible crimes, and fewer than 1 in 5 U.S. residents over the age of 16 had face-to-face contact with police, which was down 24% from 2018. But, of course, Black people experience the most contact with police. In fact, the number of Black folks continuing to experience contact with police continues to grow. 42% of those who say that they are over age 16 and had any police contact were African Americans. So the number has continued to rise exponentially, and the number of traffic stops, the number of street stops. So in other words, stop and frisk. All that continues to rise, despite they're saying that they're not interacting a whole lot more or less than what they used to.
Yeah, we know that's happening. To be Black in America is to know all those stats. I feel for Black men in this country. I really do feel for you guys because I know there's a new show on Netflix called Forever. And one of the things that the father did in the show Forever, I recommend if you're looking for something to do on Memorial Day, that's a good binge watch. But the father in the show is raising a Black male, and he's really showing how he's doing it with love. The mother is very protective, but he's like, you gotta let him be a man. You gotta let him grow up. And it talks about the father tells him how to deal with police interaction. And there's a scene in the show where there's a police officer. The show is set in LA. LAPD pulls up behind him and he freezes. And the trauma in his face is so real. And of course, the police car pulls around him and he goes home. But when he gets home, he sits in the driveway for a minute. And I'm talking about, this is a high school senior. He just sits in the car for a minute and decompresses. And so it's hard for Black men in this country, especially Black men who have sons, because every time your child leaves the house, you're afraid. And so as we look and we reflect on today and we think about what the Trump administration is doing by rolling back different policies and stuff, it just is such an anxiety factor. It's such an anxiety factor. And we're always constantly fighting for Black joy. And so on today, it's like a catch-22 because we think about all the strides we've made in the past 5 years, but we also are like, here we go again.
Here we go again. Wow. That's a good point. So it's called Forever. And Neil recommends checking that out. That sounds interesting.
It's a binge watch for the weekend. It's a
All
love
right.
story. It's by Marsha Brock. She did Girlfriends.
Nice.
She did a lot of the Black shows that we love, Being Mary Jane. So it's that Black family, but it also deals with the issues of our country. So it's a really good show.
Where is it? Netflix, you said? Or where is it?
On Netflix.
Netflix. Yeah, because we were just talking about that recently. Like, there's no real Black love stories without all of the other stuff the drugs, the violence, or whatever. Television or Hollywood in general has just totally destroyed the goodness of the Black family. So this sounds interesting. Nice.
No, it's a lot of good Black shows out there. You just gotta sift through it. But it was so
Gotta
funny.
sift through it.
Yesterday, DJ Head and Gina were talking about this show, and they're younger, but they were talking about how they were just waiting for the trauma. And Gina even brought up that scene about they were just waiting for the trauma, and they was like this, and they're young, they're like, this is so refreshing. There was no trauma. It was just a good love story. And I was like, yeah, it
Okay.
is when you look at it
So
like that.
love story without the trauma. Yeah, there you go.
I mean,
That now
there's
see,
drama, but there's
no, you
not
said
so much
trauma.
trauma. Yeah,
Right.
there's drama, but no
Okay.
trauma.
Oh, I
Yeah.
can dig that. Okay, so as you know, in 2020, the death of George Floyd sparked a lot of things, the global Black Lives Matter movement, but it also caused some corporations, some businesses to make pledges to Black America. In 2020, Target was at the forefront of that. In fact, they pledged $2 billion and $2 billion investment in Black-owned businesses, among other things, by 2025. And then, of course, we know what happened at the beginning of this year. Target decided to renege on their investment promise and has totally turned their backs on the Black community and Black businesses, going away from their pledge. And that is in large part why we talk about all these other companies who rolled back or turned away from their DE&I commitments. It's in large part why Target is among the first to be boycotted, among the first to be, if you will, targeted by folks like Jamal Bryant and the National Newspaper Publicists Association, the NAACP. They made a promise that they were supposed to fulfill by this year, and they turned their backs. Well, now it looks like the Target boycott and all of these things, the Target fast, the selective buy-in campaign and consumer education awareness campaign, all of this is working. On a call this week, a earnings call that Target had, its CEO, Brian Cornell, admitted that first quarter sales were down in part because of the backlash over the company's rollback of diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. Foot traffic at Target has dropped 7% compared to last year. And so it's working, Miel.
It's working, and our next guest that's joining us right now is one that really began the Target boycott. Welcome, civil rights attorney and activist Nekima Levy Armstrong. Welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I'm so glad that you're here. 5 years ago, we were having this conversation. I was on another network, and you would tap in and let us know what's happening. Stacey just brought up the Target boycott, which you started because we have to. It's less than a couple of miles from where George Floyd. So when you hear what Stacey was talking about the numbers and the decrease, how are you feeling about that?
I'm grateful that folks heard the message loud and clear when we announced the Target boycott back on January 27th of this year, which was 3 days after Target made its announcement that it was going to roll back its focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I think part of what's significant about the boycott is the fact that Minneapolis activists rose up in the face of seeing Target abandon its commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion, because they are headquartered in the place where George Floyd was killed, which is the city of Minneapolis. So their stores were impacted by the uprising that occurred here. As a matter of fact, one of their stores is right across the street from the 3rd Precinct Police Station, which was set on fire during the uprising. And so in 2021, Target pledged $2 billion in the wake of George Floyd being killed. And they said that they were going to increase Black brands on the shelves, improve the Black customer shopping experience. They were going to improve their promotion and hiring practices and retention when it comes to Black employees, as well as improve their supplier diversity networks. So they were seen as a corporate leader at the time, which lured a lot of us into their stores, thinking that it was a friendly environment. So to see them cower almost immediately after Donald Trump took office, and then to later find out that they pledged or donated $1 million towards the Trump and Vance inauguration campaign was absolutely unconscionable, and it needed to be dealt with. And in Minneapolis, after everything we've been through, we don't sit on the sidelines when companies in our backyard do something of this nature. So we took action, and it was Black folks, but it was also our allies who stood in solidarity with us and said, we will no longer shop at Target. And folks, of course, across the nation, because it's a nationwide indefinite boycott. I know some people put 40 days on it, but we know how these things work. It's not instant. You have to keep applying the pressure until you see change. So those first quarter earnings reports show that we were right on the money in terms of targeting Target for their decision to abandon one of their most loyal customer bases, which is us as Black folks, as well as women.
Yeah, and Nekima, as Dr. Jones points out, Target, she's in Minneapolis, and Target was really loud in their support. And so, as I was trying to explain earlier, that's what makes this, that's part of what makes what they have done so egregious. They were loud, they were out front, they made this huge, huge pledge. They were among the first to make such a pledge. And I think it just hits to the core that the pledge was supposed to really come to its fruition this year, and they turned it back.
Yes, they did. And it actually gave us the impression that their pledge was performative. You know, if you're pledging something and you're committed to it, you are not going to abandon what you are committed to so quickly, especially taking cues from Donald Trump, given his attacks on diversity, equity, and inclusion from the moment he stepped foot in office, and all of the nonsensical executive orders that he has put forward, you know, causing people's heads to be on a swivel, trying to keep up with all the things that he's attempting to do to roll back progress, including attacking our Black institutions, our museums, our history. So to have Target, who puts on elaborate Black History Month displays, make this decision a week before Black History Month was a huge slap in the face. So as a community, we said we're not going.
Nekima and Neil, you know what's interesting too? We talk a lot about folks who have supported Trump, and then now they are finding out, as Neil said, FO. Target is doing the same thing. You know, they are complaining, and on that earnings call that I talked about, not only did they admit that these boycotts and actions against them by members of the Black community are hurting them, but they mentioned Trump's tariffs as well. And they have been fighting, and he's told them just to suck it up, the tariffs. And their call, the chairman mentioned that Trump essentially, and I'm paraphrasing the word suck it up, but he's basically told them to suck it up.
They put themselves in that position. If you are focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion as a large corporation, then stand on business. Right? They chose the wrong side of history, and now they are paying the price for that on both sides of the equation. They invested in Trump and his lies and manipulations, and now they see he's not throwing out a life raft to save them. And we as a community are saying at this point, even if you roll back diversity, equity, and inclusion, you have shown your true colors, and we might never step foot back in Target again. Even the founders of Target, the daughters, came forward in an op-ed in the LA Times saying that Target's decision is antithetical to the principles upon which Their father helped to found the corporation. So they're standing in solidarity with us as a community, saying, absolutely not, we will not stand for this. And then how many companies have seen the fall of Target and made a decision of, no, we're going to stand firm on diversity, equity, and inclusion, and putting out statements to that effect, which I think is powerful as well.
I know we don't have a lot more time with you. So we want to find out what's happening in Minneapolis this weekend. But before we get to that and you tell us what's going on, I want you to touch on, Stacey brought up, Jamal Bryant, and, the Black press and a lot of other organizations. Have you guys had conversations? Have we begun to unify this movement, or is everybody still working on their own islands towards the same goal?
Well, I will say that there are 3 of us who launched the Target Boycott, the nationwide Target Boycott. 2 of the 3 of us are Black women here in Minneapolis, and we have a Black man who is the Jelani Toussaint, Monique Hullers-Doty. Jelani is the executive director of CARE Minnesota. And we felt that, we tried to collaborate with Jamal Bryant and others. However, we felt that the fact that we launched the boycott, the purpose behind it, the connection to George Floyd, the fact that it wasn't just 40 days, was getting lost in the sauce. We're thinking, listen, we have a boycott. Now there's a fast for 40 days that can confuse people. Or if in 40 days you don't receive the results, let people know there's still an ongoing and indefinite boycott. And because that wasn't done, it was seen as disrespect on our parts, as the folks who literally labored as boots on the ground for years demanding justice for George Floyd. And we're hearing folks like Jamal Bryant bring up the name of George Floyd. Whether he put in any work around that, that's a different story. We don't know. But what we do know is when you have Black women at the forefront, leading, speaking truth to power, and challenging the status quo, we don't erase them like what we have experienced in our history as Black women civil rights advocates. You stand shoulder to shoulder with them and you amplify their work. That's what we expected to happen. That's not what we experienced. So we had to cut ties and continue to do what we do as activists, which is to be boots on the ground and get our message across and to let people know we're not turning back after 40 days. This is indefinite and ongoing and may not ever end at this point because of Target showing its true face.
You do have, or at least I know you've had cooperation. We talked about the Black press with the Minnesota Spokesman Recorder and Tracy Dillard, correct?
Yes, we love the Minnesota Spokesman Recorder. They have been so instrumental in covering all of the protests and demonstrations surrounding the police killing of George Floyd. And even before that, because we've been boots on the ground here since at least 2014, consistently since Mike Brown was killed in Ferguson, Missouri. And we've been boots on the ground after that time. And the Spokesman Recorder has continued to tell our stories and to make sure that the truth gets out there. As a matter of fact, just a couple days ago, we co-hosted a conversation with many activist groups signing on as community supporters of the Minnesota Spokesman Recorder's event focused on 5 years since George Floyd was killed. And Tracy had as one of the guests, Andre Locke, who is the father of Amir Locke, who was killed less than 2 years after George Floyd by the Minneapolis Police Department. So it's just powerful to see the Black press here in our community active and boots on the ground with us and speaking the truth and setting the story straight about what's happening in Minneapolis so that our movement is not co-opted or hijacked, which is part of, what we've been experiencing with this Target boycott.
Well, we're definitely going to help get the message amplified. We have one of your comrades from Minneapolis coming up, Toussaint Morrison.
Yes.
And so we know you have to go. So we'll let him tell us what's happening in Minneapolis, but we'll definitely tap in again. Peace and love.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you all so much.
Okay.
Thanks, Nekima. We appreciate you. Well, yeah. Listen, she's 100% right and feeling the way she feels too. They started it. You cannot not have them involved or try and somebody should be working with them. Everybody should. And to your point, I guess to the point of your question, um, people, everyone should be working together on this.
Really, they should be. But we know with movement work, sometimes, it takes a minute for that to happen. So I'm still optimistic that it can happen. But one thing about Attorney Levy, she's been in this position before. I remember, having conversations during in 2020 and just all of the different people that descended upon Minneapolis, and how it was hard to control just so many narratives getting out there. But she stayed consistent. And here she is still today, boots on the ground. And so I'm hopeful, I'm hoping that they could have that little church basement meeting and get it together. I'm
Uh,
hoping. So while we're waiting for Toussaint to come in, I guess we could jump into some morning show more trending headlines and topics.
all
You
right.
want to do
Well,
it?
go ahead, jump on in.
So we kind of let the Diddy trial kind of just formulate a little more and see what else was popping. So
Oh
we
boy.
have some highlights of what happened this week. So of course we know multiple testimony corroborating abuse against Cassie continued this week, but we have to remember Diddy is not on trial for domestic violence. He's on trial for sex trafficking and racketeering.
Uh,
So
oh, I'm sorry. You're not finished with Diddy. Go ahead.
yeah, Cassie's mom, Regina Ventura, testified this week that she took out a home equity loan of 20K. And then because Diddy was demanding 20K in exchange for Cassie's sex tapes. So after the mother allegedly gave him the 20K, he returned it to her in 4 to 5 days. Prosecutors also revealed images of President Obama shaped ecstasy pills that were in Diddy's possession. And a male escort dancer who's known professionally as the Punisher testified Cassie did not seem uncomfortable, but she did focus on Diddy during alleged sexual encounters. And then yesterday, this week, I think everybody was waiting to see Kid Cudi testify. And he did testify, and he said that Diddy, he described him as a Marvel supervillain during his testimony. But I think one of the takeaways that Diddy's defense attorney brought out was that Kid Cudi said that he felt that Cassie played him and Diddy.
Yep. I think
Um,
that was huge for the defense.
yeah, so the trial testimony continues today. We know Monday is Memorial Day, so they'll probably be on a break and resume on Tuesday. But interesting how it seems like the prosecution has not seemed to turn the corner into proving sex trafficking and racketeering, and they are focused on proving that Cassie was a victim.
Yeah, the Kid Cudi testimony, and folks, we got to understand that all of these witnesses are prosecution witnesses. It's very, very important that you understand that the defense hasn't even put its case on yet. But for him to say, and I'm sure the prosecution cringed when he said that Cassie played him and played Diddy as well. But that supervillain thing, he said he walked into the room to meet with Diddy, and Diddy was standing facing the window, looking out the window with his hands on his hips, I guess, or whatever. And he looked like a Marvel supervillain. I was done when he said that. But there was some really, really interesting stuff. I don't know where they're going with this. And then to say that this thing will probably last until July. Mm.
Well, I mean, like I said, I don't think that the defense, the prosecution has turned the corner in proving their case. They're so set on It seems like they believe that, proving that Cassie is a victim will make the jurors just vote, in their favor. And I just don't see it. I think there are two different things that are happening. And like I said,
That has to be their hope. That has to be, Niel, their hope that they are, and the jury be so enraged at Cassie being beaten, and that they will just say guilty. And this is
Mhm.
not what he's charged for. And that's why I keep saying that this seems like, if it does go that way, it seems like another case where, in this case, the New York State Supreme Court will overturn this conviction if they don't show anything other than what they've been showing.
For
And
sure.
if, of course, if it's a conviction. So
For sure. So we will resume on Tuesday, but trial continues today. In more news, yesterday I brought up a story about CBS, the CEO stepping down of news, the CBS News CEO, executive director stepping down. Now, rumor has it that Gayle King might be nearing the end of her 13-year run at CBS Mornings. We know CBS Mornings falls under CBS News. Okay, so you had the executive producer from 60 Minutes resign yesterday. Well, this week you had the executive director, CEO of CBS News steps down. Now you have the news about Gayle King. And with CBS's parent company, Paramount, under pressure to cut $5 million ahead of its merger with Skydance, King's high salary is reportedly on the chopping block.
well, that'll give her more time to go back up in space, and maybe she'll get the attention she wanted for the first time. That's how I look at it. But it's sad though, because this is all the domino effect of their situation with Donald Trump, them capitulating to Donald Trump.
I don't remember Gayle King doing that, but are you talking about
No,
CBS?
I'm talking about CBS.
Oh, okay.
With the whole settlement stuff, with the whole, this is all with the 60 Minutes, the Kamala Harris thing. This is Paramount and CBS cowering to Donald Trump. And why would you cut? I'm not a Gayle King fan, but obviously, but she is your top draw at that CBS morning. Let's face it, people talk about Gayle King more than they talk about anybody else on CBS News. Why would you be looking to sideline or cut the one person who does draw people to you? This is all about them trying to recover and preparing for the worst when it comes to Donald Trump.
For sure. Let's head over to Chicago, where the Chicago Bears have officially announced their relocation to Arlington Heights, marking the end of their era at Soldier Field. The new stadium is expected to open up in 2028. So that is the end of an era for Chicago. I know I was looking at a lot of the Chicago blogs, and a lot of fans were very upset about, leaving Soldier Field.
Well, so many other fan bases have had to go through that. Really, when you think about professional sports, the only fan bases that haven't had to go through a change of venue are the Boston Red Sox fans and the Chicago Cubs fans. But everybody wants those shiny new objects now. At least the teams and the team owners, they want the shiny new taxpayer paid objects.
Yes, yes. I just got word from our second guest, Toussaint Morrison. He's going to be unable to join us, but he'll definitely give us a recap on Tuesday. There's so many things that are happening over the weekend as we reflect on the progress, but the need for police reform in this country due to the murder and untimely death of George Floyd by Derek Chauvin. We know that many white folks across this country are calling for his pardon by Donald Trump. But Stacey, as you pointed out, let him go ahead and pardon him, because we know for a fact that Derek Chauvin took the deal, the federal deal, because he doesn't want to be in state prison. He's afraid he's gonna get shanked, and they waiting to shank him. So if Donald Trump does pardon him, guess what? Keith Ellison, the Attorney General, said that he's still gonna serve his 22 plus years. So
Sure
either
did.
way, don't let that bother you. Don't let that make your blood pressure go up this weekend, folks across the country, because it's gonna happen this weekend. All on Fox News. You're gonna see it on your social media. Pardon Derek Chauvin. Go ahead and pardon him, Donald Trump. You're gonna send him right on
Yeah.
back to state prison.
Well, why do you think Trump hasn't pardoned him by now? Um, he understands. Even he understands that it does Derek Chauvin no favors by pardoning him.
Oh, but get ready. He gonna do something this weekend.
Oh, it's gonna be something. Oh yeah.
He knows this weekend is important. He knows that, he knows what the murder of George Floyd did to this country. He is a race baiter. He's a race baiter. He's gonna
And-
do something. But just know, folks,
Mhm.
Eric Chauvin gets pardoned, he going to state prison.
Yeah, and it would be simply for like you said, race baiting and to distract folks. Him doing that. So, like you said, let it happen. We'll see. Folks should understand. But if he does that, folks should understand why he's doing it. And to your point, just shrug it off because this, it's the cutting your nose to spite your face thing. And in this case, he would be cutting Chauvin's nose and everything else. So go ahead.
Yeah, go for it. So we're gonna go to the black card.
Oh, I thought you had more. I thought you had more. Okay, you're done. Talk about, you've changed it from quickies. That was a quickie. Yes. Before we do that, our intrepid producer loves a little gossip. So she said she's talking about the crashing out of Remy Ma and Offset. Now, I don't know everything.
It's not
a lot
Offset.
of
It's Papoose. Are you talking about
Papoose, but I
her
think she's
husband?
mentioning them separately, because Offset, and we didn't talk about this before. Not that it's important, but it's really interesting that, and you could talk about Remy Ma in a moment, but Offset decides after Cardi was at the basketball game with her boyfriend, of course, being photographed and filmed. Offset decides to post pictures of him and two very, very scantily clad women laying around together, and folks saw it for what it was. It's so petty. You guys are done. You've had your, you've had your many breakups and makeups, and this time it appears that Cardi is done, finished. So you're Offset. Come on, man up. Don't do your thing. But as far as the other one, Remy Ma, what's the story there?
Drama, marriage drama. Stuff that they probably should have kept to themselves. It's like these years of people crashing out are becoming more and more common. It's like every week, who gonna crash out this week? Who gonna crash out this week? I mean, it's just way too much information about their marriage that we don't need to know. I mean, and I don't know if they still in love with each other. I don't know if they're going through their hating phase, but it's just too much. It's too much. I mean, they could have spent their time talking about how they gonna, George Floyd. It's just when you talk about crash and burn, it's crash and burn for sure.
Well, yeah, like you said, they all do it. It seems like everybody gets their turn to just, as you say, crash out. And as Orangey put it, those women with Offset he said they were two bootleg strippers from Magic City.
Oh my
After
gosh. Is that alleged or is that verified information?
yeah, right, exactly. But the problem with Remy Ma, apparently, what happened there, according to Greer, after Papoose posted divorce, I remember that he posted divorce papers. She went online and she went nuclear on him.
Well, I think they went nuclear on each other. She went, but he was very subtle with his stuff. Said she was sleeping with other women in front of him. I mean, he said a lot. I mean, he just didn't go off. She went off. he was very calm, demure about his
Demure.
presentation about his ex-wife because he got another woman. And one thing we know about
The
Papu,
kids,
who
Papoose and Remy Ma. I'm
yeah, with
asking.
them.
They have
Yeah, they do have
so,
kids. They have a
so
daughter
they need to
together.
pipe down. Then they need to relax publicly. They need to not do it. You said he's been very calm about it. So I'll say about her, she needs to stop it. Then you cannot do this so publicly when there are kids involved. You shouldn't do it
Right.
anyway. But yeah, that's right. Mike V says he's now dating Clarissa Shields, and yeah, I saw Remy Ma did post something about Clarissa Shields, and one of the things she posted most recently was that um, that Papoose is going to use her for her money, and once the money is gone, he's gone. Yeah, she says she feels bad for old girl.
That's funny because Papoose, when she was in prison, he held her down. But I don't know too many men that stick with their women while they go through. They serve their time. And so
Wow.
I find it very interesting how she's trying to paint him when we all saw what happened. That man
Right.
held that woman down like a woman would hold a man down in prison.
A ride or
So
die.
that's just interesting to me.
Mhm.
He said all
Wow.
the utilities are in his name. He said all that
Oh
stuff she's
boy.
saying.
So is he
So
cutting those utilities off?
we'll
She living
see.
in a dark house?
No, he was just saying the house that he live. I guess she doesn't live there anymore, but she was saying that
Mm.
she pays all the bills. So his response to that was all the bills are in his name. That's what I'm saying. It's
Yeah,
so
it,
tacky. It's
it
so
is.
messy. It's so like really we didn't need to go on tour with Fat Joe. Go. And then he said he wrote all her raps. He wrote 80 to 90% of her raps. So we'll see how far her career goes now because he's not using his pen for her no more.
Oh gosh, what's going on there? Angela Ellis Taylor, Mick Jagger teaming up on Rosetta Tharpe. Oh wow, Rosetta Tharpe. She's the one who really helped in a huge way the career of Elvis Presley.
Mm.
Yeah, very unsung. Her influence on Elvis and she's the one, if I'm not mistaken, that when the chips were down for Elvis, he would drive into Memphis and go into her. She had a little club and go in there and get counsel from her, and she would pick him up and they would perform and she would give him some material. This woman, that should be an interesting story. Mick Jagger's down with that too.
Mm.
Wow, that should be interesting. It's amazing and again, it makes me think of the interview I talked about with Chuck D and Curtis Blow on the Breakfast Club because they went through a nice history on music and Black folks and hip hop and other genres. And it's amazing when you go back, just like when you talk about Beyonce and country music, how she's shown this is really originally a Black art form, how Black folks are behind all of the arts. It's like how you can't when you trace it all back, it comes back to somebody who looks like us.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I mean, even like the career of Elvis Presley, the king of rock and roll, it goes back to people like Rosetta Tharpe.
Mm-hmm.
That is
Mm-hmm.
awesome. Some awesome stuff, awesome stuff. And see, this is the weekend to talk about stuff like that. When you
Mm-hmm.
are she's like, Greer says, and he wasn't the king. Listen, I liked Elvis. I gotta admit, I liked Elvis. So,
Mm-hmm.
but his success would not have come to be if it wasn't for people like her,
Mm-hmm.
and also the fact that this a lot of people didn't know he grew up in the projects with Black folks. He didn't necessarily grow up there, but he was there for a few years, I think 5 years, and where he learned everything. So again, it goes back to Black folks. So there you have it. There's some pop culture for you.
Right there. There you have it.
All right, we're gonna take the black card away from not one, not two people, not three people, but four folks. Four. And you know who they are? They are, and RNG knows who they are. Deontay Johnson, Nico Caro, Marquita Bushrod, and Rod Dorillis. Yep, all four of these absent-minded simpletons who are the leaders of the Black Conservative Forum, who announced its summit is happening this summer. And among the events are a criminal justice reform panel. I wonder what that looks like through their eyes. A strengthening of the Black family. I wonder what that looks like through their eyes. And the nerve of them, Niel, they're going to have a Where Them Fans At country western gala. These Negroes are done. These are, so folks don't, these are hardcore, can't tell me nothing. Trump is the man. Supreme Court, conservative Supreme Court, and Clarence Thomas is the man. These are those folks. These are those folks. So to co-op, to further co-op the where them fans at? Come on. What y'all resting from? What they resting from, Neil? You tell me about black people and what y'all resting from. What are these folks resting from?
I mean, Black people are not a monolith. So, I don't expect everybody to think like I do. But thank God that we all have the freedom to make our own decisions. So, I mean, that's just how they get down. I mean, I'm not, but I would rather sit at a table with them and try to find some common ground than to be just dismissive of them.
Oh, you know what? I hear you, and I just think that there are times where common ground just can't be found. I think there's times where if you're at war, you don't have time for the nonsense, and I believe that this is an all-out war, so don't have time for the nonsense. And the question, yeah, that's a good question. What does Black Voices for Trump look like at this point? I guess it looks like them. All right, let's move on to some Black history moments. On this date in 1900, William Carney becomes the first Black American to earn the Medal of Honor, recognized for heroically protecting the American flag during the Civil War. Army Sergeant William Harvey Carney received the Medal of Honor, the nation's highest military.
You froze.
We lost your voice.
No, you froze. Maybe it was my computer.
So on this date in 1921, Shuffle Along, first of a succession of popular musicals featuring Black talent, opened at the 63rd Street Music Hall in New York City. So more Black history, more Black pop culture stuff, art on this date in 1921. So
yeah,
there you have it.
I think it's also important to bring up the significance of Black people's contribution to Memorial Day. The first national commemoration of Memorial Day is reported as May 30th, 1868. However, African Americans began honoring fallen soldiers May of 1865. And so Memorial Day really is something that Black folks started. So as we go into Memorial Day, just remember that we brought it up, not them.
Okay. Wow. All right.
There you have it.
There you have it. We could our Black-owned newspaper of the day, folks. And it's only fitting that it comes again out of Minneapolis. It's Insight News. It started in 1974 as a color cover magazine based in and serving Minneapolis's African American North Side. It was owned by Graphic Services Inc., a general printing and magazine publishing firm in Northeast Minneapolis. And now Al McFarland, who headed the Midwest Public Relations Division of Graphic Services, is the publisher of Insight News. He's a 26-year, he was at the time, just a 26-year-old media enthusiast who had previously worked for the St. Paul Pioneer Press and as a reporter and for General Mills in public relations. So he purchased it in 1975 and began publishing it as a community newspaper a year later. And now Insight News is one to check out when you are in Minneapolis. We mentioned the spokesman recorder. You got two outstanding sources for news, Black-owned sources for news there in Minneapolis. So check out Insight News, their website. And Al does his conversations with Al McFarlane noon Eastern daily. So check him out on YouTube as well.
Yeah, you definitely want to tap into those two Black press papers this week as we commemorate or celebrate the life of George Floyd. Those two newspapers in Minneapolis will definitely have all up-to-date news stories, from celebrations to the things that are still impacting Minneapolis citizens. So definitely check those out. And of course, you can head on over to the national perspective of Black America at blackpressusa.com.
All right. And folks, it's a holiday weekend. So whatever you choose to do, do it safely. And we will see you next week.
Tuesday, not Monday. Don't pull up here on Monday because you're going to be by yourself.
Okay. There you have it.